Hello, everybody, and welcome to issue 0 of the Thursday Comics Podcast. I am your co-host, Dennis Osbourne, accompanied by, like always, the immortal, the uncanny, the amazing Wallace Ryan.
Why, thank you very much there, Dennis.
And I read a night Wallace.
You're rather astounding yourself, shall I say.
We have a lot of adjectives and objectives and everything to go through, so...
And we got them all around us here, too. It's uncanny.
It is.
Right? It's astonishing. It's all new. Anyway.
So, issue 0, this is basically our test episode.
Yeah.
We're just going to break down the format of the show really quick, and then go through a little bit of the themes.
Yeah.
Break it all down for you. Quick little episode before we actually start our main one with the collector's edition number 1.
Yeah, and this will give you just a little look into the magic that will be Thursday Comics,
right.
I think.
So how the show will break down, of course, we'll do our introduction. We'll do a review of last week's episode. That'll include a lot of the fan feedback,
Yeah.
Positive and negative.
Yeah, so make sure you put in comments on the, well, for one, on the YouTube page to start us off, and even on the Facebook page. I guess if they want to leave questions there for us to answer, and their name too, if they want their real name used, or even a pretend name, I guess.
We'll give you a shout out, whether it's positive or if you're a downright prick.
Yeah, we'll tell you who you are.
Then we'll go into our main topic for the show. We'll talk about upcoming books for next week. If that doesn't fly, there's nothing that really tickles your fancy there, we will go into the From the Vault section, in which Wallace and myself will pretty much just take something straight off the shelf that is still in print, talk about that, praise that book. So if you go to your local comic shop, you can look for that, so you do have something to read for the weekend coming up.
Yeah, and he's not joking when he says taken from the shelf, because, well, if you look at the video for this, and we will shoot videos of the podcast just so you can see what it's like when you got two wackos like us talking about comics,
pretty much
surrounded by comics,
so,
right?
Then we're usually going to close the show out. We're going to do Deep Thoughts with Wallace Ryan.
Very deep.
This is where Wallace will basically just curse like a sailor, whatever on his mind.
Damn right.
So, which he's been really excited to curse. So.
Oh yeah. I've been waiting for this bastard to come along.
Then we'll just close the show out, mention the topic for next week, and then close it all out. We're good.
And it's funny because this is almost how the show's going to be. We start out, because the subject of today's obviously is the show itself.
So we're just going to talk about how the show came about.
Yeah. Well, we'll tell the origin story.
Right.
Start. You can start if you want.
So how it came about, it started with we'll call it the sister show, Wallace's Facebook page, and Wallace's YouTube show, the Library of Graphic Literature. I was helping him record a video and do some reviews one day, and we were just waiting for it to upload, and we were just sitting around having a chat about both working in comic shops before and our favorite books and shitting on certain people.
Who all of you out there know who we're talking about.
Right. And just have a grand discussion. And as it was recording, while we're doing up the video, we just said to ourselves, why didn't we just record this? Because this was far more fun than almost the video was.
It really was. Yeah.
It's just chatting, random stories and your favorite books and mine and your favorite artists and creators and just bitching about stuff that we don't really bitch about.
Yeah, and with the age difference between us too, we cover like a really good range of modern comics too.
Right.
With me being born in the 60s right up through to the 90s, and then yourself and your experience of comics, as a young person then from the 80s actually.
From mid-late 80s going through the 90s. So I always said I was the product of mass marketing blitz.
Yeah.
Because when I started collecting comics, you had the cartoons and the toy lines and the comic book and the tie-ins and the gimmicky covers, and I was the product of that. I'm the product of one of the worst eras, yet most profitable in comic book history.
And the funny thing is that when I was a kid, I used to be so pissed when when you'd look at an action figure done for Superman or Batman, they'd always get something wrong with it. There was never any good. The only thing decent was Captain Action, and because he had these little sets that you could dress him up in. But
he's a male Barbie.
Yeah. But his accessories were Superman outfits and all, which were actually accurate. Which even shocked me back in the late '60s, early '70s when they came out. I was like, geez, how were they able to do this when they can't get anything else right? Right. But I mean when I was growing up, it was Major Mac Mason, all these space toys, stuff like that. But it's just like, God, you think you'd take a bit of time out of your busy day to do up something like that?
And it's also funny now. So I'm actually at a part that I'm an older generation.
Yeah.
Because when I was still reading comics in the late '90s, early 2000s, that's when a lot of people my age were dropping off. So there's this giant gap when those people, which are now my age, are getting back into comics. And they have this giant gap in history that they completely unaware of.
Yeah.
And a lot of the late '90s stuff is not collected in any paperback form.
No.
So I'm this go-to for a lot of people for Spider-Man in the late '90s and early 2000s and X-Men in that era, because it's almost a forgotten era in which, say, Marvel was going through bankruptcy at the time, and they were just putting out anything, really.
Yeah.
So
it was desperate times.
It is, and it's that little weird era before the graphic novel era.
Yeah.
Started kicking in with 2000, in the year 2000, around there.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting, that all of a sudden I am almost like a teachable generation alone.
Yeah.
And that floors me to no end, really. So.
Yeah. Well, I believe we're living in the golden age of graphic literature. Like, you know, how they're always slapping an age on something. And officially, by the way, out there, this is it. This is the golden age of graphic literature, because you've got not only great graphic novels coming out by men and women, you've got great collections of all the classic stuff. Which, if it wasn't for this particular era, it's saving a lot of comics. Everyone from PSR books to Library of American Comics reprinting the old stuff, and that's why I love seeing the old stuff, because, as we both know, you know, as the centuries go on, a lot of that is going to disintegrate, and so, fortunately, most of this stuff is printed on acid-free paper and will last centuries.
Well,
right?
it's can officially be a library now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I like that with the collection. Say I was growing up in the '90s and I was reading X-Men.
Yeah.
The only way I could ever read Giant Size X-Men #1 was the Marvel Milestone Edition comics.
Oh,
that came out.
Yes,
and
I
they were the
remember
high
them,
quality.
yeah.
And they came out with Amazing Fantasy and Spider-Man 1 and certain key issues.
Yeah.
That was the only way you could read those issues.
Yeah. Well, I guess the Marvel
Mass
works too, because now they were 87.
They were 87.
They led the charge, really. But
Right.
even then.
But they were $87 when I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
So
no, in 87 they came out. I think
in 87 they came out.
But they were expensive, yes. And they obviously aimed at older readers.
Older collectors.
Right? And, because, I mean, I had them in my shop. The only thing I didn't like, they had those silly marbled covers to them with the tie. I never liked that. Right?
Which they still do, don't they? Do
yeah,
like direct market
and then the silver ones, which I'm glad they've stuck with those, because I love those nice big images on them. Right?
They kind of copied that with the cheaper format when they did the Marvel Premier Classics.
Yeah.
Those hardcovers, which are really nice, and you used to have the two versions. You used to have the solid black covers with just the image, a nice big image on front, or you could have the ones that were all numbered.
Yeah.
The direct market editions. Now, I didn't like them, because if you were only buying certain ones, you'd have number 71 and 94 and 7.
Exactly.
And that'll just drive most people nuts to go buy all of them.
Oh, it drove me nuts, right?
So I did like that aspect. You have the same book, but appealing to direct market and mass market, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Which is also, I like now about DC and Marvel are doing with books like Mr. Miracle, and they're doing with the House of X Powers of 10 book coming out. So Mr. Miracle was available paperback everywhere, but the comic books were getting the limited edition hardcover.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
And I think Powers of 10 hardcover will be going mass market, but the direct version is getting an exclusive cover.
Yeah.
And maybe some different content, I don't know.
Yeah. Which I like. I like the exclusives.
I appeal to both sides.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it promotes people going into the comic shop as well, which is kind of what you want to get people in and browse.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
thing that's missing now is you're not getting. People are just like window shopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're looking at books online, they're buying it, and they're not actually getting a chance to go down, hold the book, browse through it, have something catch their eye, and buy it on a whim.
Yeah. From there. Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
And that's how you got into some comics. You would go down as a child, you'd flip through something would catch your eye, an image, or, well, usually an image.
Yeah.
Um,
and you'd like it, and
you'd
you
like
wanted
it, and you'd buy that issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then hopefully that'll get you going on the series.
Exactly.
For years and years until DC or Marvel cancels it and ruins your life.
Yes, exactly. It makes you grow up old and bitter like me.
Right? And I'm getting there. I'm halfway there. So we're all cynical now.
Yeah. Now our origin stories. I mean, with yourself, we first met. How long have we known each other now? It must be at least 5,
6 years
at
now.
least.
But I think we knew each other because I was shopping at the comic book store, and you were there, and we'd have random discussions, chit-chats and everything, but we didn't really know one another. How we got to know one another was Leslie.
Yeah, my daughter.
And that is how, because I knew Leslie, I hung out with Leslie, and then when you mentioned that she was your daughter, we got into this big discussion.
Yeah.
And then there was a familiarity there, and we started to talk more, and I always kind of picked your brain, again, with the generational gap on certain eras. And
then the show, too, when you made your first appearance on the show, and people liked the appearances, too. They liked, and I'd seen comments like that, they liked the banter, and the difference in the ages works because, we can cover... Yeah, we can cover anything from the start of the 20th century right up to today in terms of knowing what's on the go, right?
And they still cross, and we were chatting before we even started this about, say, Death of Superman.
Yeah.
You were a retailer, and I was the prime age and demographic for buying the comic.
Yeah.
And then you had my point of view and your point of view, which were two completely different things.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were even talking about that earlier, about here's something for the college fund or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And meanwhile,
this put me through college.
And meanwhile, here I as a retailer, I was just like, oh, this is going to get me a really good dinner tonight.
Right. Yeah. Right. That, paid off your college tuition or college debt before I paid for mine. So.
Yeah, ever. Right?
So, that's what a lot of people like, and I like picking your brain about Golden Age, Silver Age books.
Yeah.
I'd say big part of the reason I buy so many omnibus is because of our chit chats.
Yeah.
And talking about random stuff.
Yeah. And it seems too a lot of times that a lot of the books and stuff and artists and all that, there's a lot we have in common that we like. It's just like, oh, I really like this person or that person. Your Howard Chaykin's, everything like that. So there's certain artists I think do reach across generations. And I have one guy, a customer, he was talking to me, Dave Coffin, nice guy, and he asked about Mobius, and it was so neat to be able to talk about Mobius and about Mobius to someone who's new into comics, relatively new into comics. And I'd mentioned the 3 books that I bought recently, and how, of course, after I bought them, then they appeared in Diamond, but they're French editions too. Right. But I said to him, they're worth getting anyway, because they do have stories even within them. But I was able to talk to him about the history of Mobius back to, for myself, when I first discovered him and stuff like that, and what heavy metal meant to my generation, this sort of thing, and which you'll hear more about, of course, in future episodes, right?
Like, it's funny because heavy metal meant a certain thing to you. To me, the start of heavy metal was going to Channel 34 showcase late night TV.
Oh yeah, for the
and being a kid and growing up and watching this nudie cartoon at 1 o'clock in the morning. But then when you realized and you're watching the heavy metal cartoon that you're seeing, well, this is this guy Mobius.
Yeah.
And then you're watching a movie like Fifth Element, which ties into Mobius.
Yeah.
Which is loosely based off of the Inkle. And then you have this full circle thing that you want to check out more heavy metal.
Yeah.
And then you want to check out the Inkle, and then you want to see what else he's done.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And it's this natural progression of collecting where you kind of went from superhero-y, say, kid comics.
Yeah.
And then you went to, I don't know, say, Vertigo.
Yeah.
Comics and
Yeah.
a little more adult theme with Preacher and Sandman, and then you just go completely out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
And now you're into some weird kinky stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, it's almost like everyone's sex history. You start off at missionary position,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
bust out the toys and the handcuffs and the whips
Yeah.
and everything like that. That's Mobius.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right?
I like that, exactly.
So,
yeah.
that's
yeah.
how...
No matter what you think when you're younger, and I wouldn't be into this. When you get older, trust me, you're into it.
You appreciate it, and you're like, that's my thing now. I didn't know I was into this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what Mobius is. And if you read a lot of, or look at a lot of Mobius's work, Mobius was clearly into some of that too. You can tell.
God bless his little Arzak heart.
So.
But so I guess we met there and we did a few shows together for my show, and they worked really good, especially the 100th show, number 100. I even recommended that to people if they want to see, because in that one we'd done basically what comics should be in every library and all that. And what was it? We started with 50. What were we going to do? And we ended up doing
50. Then we changed it to 100. And then when we were doing the video, we got about halfway through the room.
Yeah.
And we were at 100.
Yeah.
So we said, screw it. We'll just do 120, 125.
125.
I think so.
Yeah. And even after that, like you say, and this is what led to us here today, was once we shut down, we're uploading and we started adding more and more. Oh my God, we forgot this. We forgot that.
Right.
It's just like, damn.
Really, you could have done almost 150, 200 because it's your opinion and my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
And someone mentioned to me a little while ago, a friend of mine, that the fun part about owning a collection is it's 100% totally unique. It's a version of your life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's your tastes, and I have books that I have collected because it was my favorite growing up, and then your 20s, your college years, you have certain tastes, and that portion is collected, and then your later taste, and
it even involves your taste in women, because when I would be dating in my 20s and 30s and all that, and this is true, I would look when I'd meet someone new, whatever, and I'd be in their apartment, I'd be looking at their books, and the books would tell me everything that I needed to know. So I mean, if it was just like TV Guide and solutions to crosswords, Reader's Digest and all that, it was just like, okay, it's time for me to get out of here while I'm still alive. But if I came in and they had, well, if they had comics, I mean, I'd be in love right away, right?
People come in mind and just assume I'm like a fucking hoarder at this point. There's that many kicking around.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I say to people, yes, this is the product of a diseased mind, right?
Which it is.
There's just no two ways about it, right?
But this basically breaks down, almost 50 years of collecting for you.
Yeah,
for the most part.
This
is basically majority of your life that's been collected.
Yeah.
And you can take most of the books off the shelf and remind you of something, where you came from, a certain memory of reading it.
Yeah, yeah.
Something, and everyone's is unique, and that's what I love about collecting comics.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about talking about them. Like you say, there's certain memories associated, like the Fourth World. I can remember as a kid waiting for the ferry to cross from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland in North Sydney, and buying a couple of comics, and one of them was New Gods number 4, I think it was, the Orion Mob, and I can remember sitting in the back of our station wagon, right? You remember where they used to put kids back over the fuel tank, right? But yeah, exactly. And there's some series, like we were talking about, series to pluck off the shelves, which is going to be one of our features too. And the one I plucked off was the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu.
Right.
Because for me, the memories that have is it's early. George Perez, there's Rudy Rabez,
right?
Rudy Nabrez, there's Keith Giffen, there was everyone in it, Marshall Rogers, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the Curtis magazines, the Marvel magazines, so and that's one thing we're going to be doing is the hauling off the From the Vault.
From the Vault.
And what was your choice for the Vault?
Mine is which we'll talk about in a little bit, is Black Sad.
Okay. We'll go ahead because.
Yeah. So after main topic, which is because this is just a brief outline episode, we go into actually upcoming books for next week.
Yeah.
The one we both decided on is the Savage Sword of Conan Volume 2 Omnibus.
Oh, yes.
Which will be coming out.
Yeah.
And brief side note, by the name Thursday Comics, a lot of people don't know, we are actually located in Newfoundland. And because we're an island and ferries and everything, we actually don't get our books until Thursday.
Yeah.
This is where the name comes from. So, we decided to call it Thursday Comics because Wednesday Comics for us is not a thing.
No.
So,
no.
It's not a thing. And we could talk about this week's books, but by the time we get ours, it's a day late, and then you read and you do reviews. Everyone already has that done.
Yeah.
So we're going to basically skip this week's, and we're going to go right into next week's books.
Yeah.
Kind of get a head start on it.
Yeah. And with the Savage Sword, that's one of my favorite. I'm loving what they're doing with both the normal Conan and the Savage Sword.
Right.
And the Savage Sword is just like the pinnacle. The art was so important in the Savage Sword, from Akela to, they had everyone. All the best artists seemed to have a shot at it, right?
Well, I think Neil Adams did several issues. We were talking about it earlier. The Zambula Strangler?
Yeah.
I think.
A classic issue, right?
Classic issue. I actually own that issue because I went down to the comic shop and bought a bunch of the magazines, and that was one of my favorites. And I actually have the Conan board game, and that's one of the scenarios that you can play.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, I didn't know that.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was really neat. And I've always had a giant love of Conan.
Yeah.
The Busek and the Kari Nord run.
Yeah.
Right through all the Dark Horse era.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad Marvel's collecting, but they're in epic collections or in paperbacks.
Yeah.
Not in the omnibus format. So.
Yeah.
We won't vent about that.
Yeah, and I did like their colossal formats because before it went back to Marvel, cause got a lot of that out of the way. But even right back to, and that's the good thing about the Conan the Barbarian omnibuses, where we get to go back and have a look, of course, at all the Barry Smith stuff and all that, and coming right into the Savage Sword and that from there on, right? But I think that's definitely, well, it's both of our picks.
It is both. It was a mutual pick. So
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it was Venom by Donny Cates, Volume 1.
Yeah, exactly. And Cates definitely, he did a great job on Doctor Strange, I thought.
He did, yeah.
And
Chris Pacello.
Yeah, definitely an up and coming artist for sure. So. What about off the shelf? Anything? Well, my off the shelf was the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Anything? What about yourself there?
Mine was Black Sad.
Yes,
the reason I picked Black Sad is multiple reasons. It actually has going to get a little bit of mass appeal. It actually has a video game coming out on all platforms. Black Sad Under the Skin. And because of that, right? Because of that, Dark Horse is collecting all of it in a hardcover collection, which we talked about a little while ago, which is going to be really nice. But I have all the 3 individuals, and I'm going to buy the other one. But it's classic crime noir story.
Yeah.
3 main parts. So you have main Black Sad in hardcover, then you have Silent Hell, and then you have Amarillo. But it's anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird, and it sounds like Zootopia, that I think Disney movie or DreamWorks that was out.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like that. And it is, but this is far more adult themes.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And it has to do with drugs, and there's one of the main parts is the Red Scare, and it has to do with communism, and it has to do with racism.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeously painted.
Bit of sex thrown in.
A little bit of sex.
Yeah.
It's animal sex.
Which never hurts anyone.
Never hurts anyone.
Except the people getting in between the animals.
Right. But it's gorgeously written. The art is amazing in it. It's fantastic stories. It is an import, so it is translated.
Yeah.
But with the new mass appeal coming out from the board game, or not board game, the video game, which is hopefully good, because that could kill a franchise too. That would probably be my pick for the week.
Okay.
So off the shelf. So I didn't have time to actually pull it off the shelf, but I know it's behind you somewhere.
Okay.
So, well, I own it and I've read it a dozen times, so I can recite that book off the top of my head. So.
Okay. Well, we're getting into the 9 minutes here of the podcast, so I guess bit of rant.
Yeah. So our last topic, normally, before we close the show out, is Deep Thoughts with Wallace Ryan. So whatever's on Wallace's mind, positive, negative, We give him about 2 or 3 minutes, and he can go right ahead and rant.
Yes.
So if you want to do a little bit of a test now, Wallace, you can go right ahead.
God damn it, I do. And I'm fucking really mad. Double fucking mad. At DC for a lot of their recent solicitation debacles, where they've solicited a comic and then either canceled it outright, renamed it, did something to it or whatever, and and I know it's driving you crazy, and it's driving me around the fucking wall. It's just like, if you're going to solicit a goddamn book, at least have the guts to fucking put it out, for God's sake. It's just, and I mean, it's DC Comics. It's not like it's a small fucking publisher, because DC is a motherfucking big publisher, and they can afford it. They're backed by Warner, for God's sake. So come on, DC, for Jesus' sake, get it. You know, I know there are some people out there who don't give a two-dog fuck about stuff like that, but a lot of your big collectors do, and you're turning, like the Before Batman.
Right.
Canceling that.
The Detective issues 1 to 26.
Yeah, and people say, oh, well, I think they cancel it because of the political correctness, and if so, that's even worse to me. It's just like, for God's sake, we all know what the comics were like back then. Though Before Batman was important for a historical reason, it had nothing to do with the content at all.
No.
I was buying them because of what they represented, and so was everyone else. Everyone else was really looking forward to it. And then when they were there were the rumors that they're messing around with the House of Mystery and House of Secrets thing. It's just like, we just bought the fucking volume #1, and you're talking about, oh, I'm not sure if we're going to do volume 2. The collectors I know, they went around the bend, right? It was just like, and fortunately they let them know, and DC, I think, heard and backed down, which I'll give you at least props there. But I mean, leave the. I think they should leave the omnibus collections just as they are now. Keep on going with those, and don't be afraid to put, because they said they were afraid of putting Bronze Age on the Jonah Hex collection, whatever. It's just like, that has to be the stupidest fucking reason I ever heard. It's like, come on, it's the Bronze Age, get over it. All those are there are to help you know, more or less, you know, okay, they're from the 70s.
Right.
It says nothing about silver, gold, bronze. It says nothing about the quality. They're just delineations of time periods.
And that's it.
And they gotta get over it. So DC, you've been the victim of the first round of deep thoughts.
All right, and that should pretty much do it.
Yes,
we're just gonna wrap things up and close things out now.
Yeah.
We're going to start recording either next week's, or it might be either bi-weekly or weekly.
Yeah.
Still haven't decided yet, but the main topic for next week will be recommending comics for all different readers, different sexes, ages. We both worked in comic shops, so we dealt with all that before, and basically building up a clientele base and knowing your readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's what we're going to talk about starting with our next recording. So.
Yeah. And our fans out there, we're going to be really good to you, because we love you. We love you so much. We almost want to have sex with you, but you know, we want to keep things, you know, above board, right?
Slightly above board.
Slightly above board. So. But there will be swearing.
So until then, you can subscribe to this podcast. You can check us out on Facebook at Thursday Comics. Even if you want to, you can check out the sister site on Facebook, the Library of Graphic Literature.
In the Library of Graphic Literature,
and Wallace Ryan's YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
Well.
Oh, and of course, the theme song that you heard at the start and at the end, it's a unique piece of music composed by local musician Bill Brennan, who, as it turns out, besides being an amazing jazz musician and all that, lived up the street